Emma, a single mother, was trying her best to hold everything together. It was the holy month of Ramadan, and she was fasting while juggling 2 jobs, working as a waitress at a small cafe during the day and as a cashier at a convenience store at night. Life had never been easy for her, but this year felt especially hard. Her 5-year-old son, Liam, was the center of her world. Every day, she rushed to pick him up from daycare, hoping she wouldn't be late. But tonight, just like many nights before, her shift had run longer than expected. Emma glanced at the clock. It was almost time to break her fast, but she had nothing prepared. She sighed, knowing she would have to make do with a bottle of water and a granola bar from the store's shelves. As she rang up customers, she forced a smile, hiding the exhaustion that tugged at her. She didn't have the luxury of slowing down, bills had to be paid, and her son needed her. Just as she was about to take a short break, the store's door swung open, and a tall man in a hoodie and jeans walked in. He moved with an air of quiet confidence but kept his head low as if trying not to attract attention. Emma barely glanced at him at first, assuming he was just another customer. But when he stepped closer to the counter and removed his hood, her breath caught in her throat. It was Keanu Reeves. She blinked, wondering if exhaustion was making her hallucinate. But no, this was real. And she had no idea that this moment would change her life forever. Emma's heart pounded as she stared at Keanu Reeves. She had seen him in movies, read about his kindness in the news, but never in a million years did she expect to meet him, especially here, at her tiny convenience store. Keanu smiled warmly, his eyes kind and genuine. "Hey there," he said casually, placing a few items on the counter. A bottle of water, a protein bar, and a small pack of dates, traditional for breaking a fast. Emma forced herself to act normal, but she could barely believe what was happening. She quickly rang up the items, trying to keep her hands from shaking. "That'll be $6.75, she said, her voice almost a whisper. Keanu reached into his pocket and pulled out a crisp bill, handing it over. But he didn't leave right away. Instead, he glanced at the clock behind her. "It's almost sunset," he said, his voice soft but full of understanding. "Aren't you fasting?" Emma was taken aback. How did he know? Then she realized, he had bought dates, the traditional food for breaking a fast. He must know about Ramadan. She hesitated before nodding. "Yes, but I don't really have time to sit and eat." Keanu frowned slightly, then glanced around the empty store. "It looks pretty quiet in here. Do you mind if I join you for iftar?" Emma's eyes widened. Was he serious? A Hollywood legend, sitting with her to break fast? She didn't know what to say, but before she could answer, Keanu placed the small pack of dates in front of her. "No one should break their fast alone," he said with a small smile. Emma swallowed hard, emotions rising in her chest. She had spent so many Ramadans eating alone at work, but tonight, everything felt different. Emma hesitated for a moment, still trying to process what was happening. Keanu Reeves, a global superstar, had just offered to sit with her and break fast. She glanced at the clock. There were only a couple of minutes left until sunset. "Are you sure?" she asked, almost whispering. Keanu chuckled softly. "Why not? I've always been fascinated by different cultures and traditions. And Ramadan, it's about kindness, right?" Emma nodded, her heart swelling at his words. She quickly grabbed a small plate and poured some dates onto it. She also pulled out a bottle of water for each of them, her hand still slightly trembling from the unexpected company. As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, Emma whispered, "Bismillah," and took her first bite of a date. Keanu followed her lead, eating one with quiet respect. The silence between them wasn't awkward, it was peaceful. Emma could feel something special about the moment. "I've read a little about Ramadan," Keanu said after taking a sip of water. "It's not just about fasting, right? It's about gratitude, patience, helping others." Emma smiled, finally relaxing. "Exactly. It's about being thankful for what we have and remembering those who have less." Keanu nodded, seeming to take it all in. "That's beautiful," he said sincerely. For the first time in a long time, Emma didn't feel invisible. She wasn't just a struggling single mother working late hours, she was someone who mattered. As they ate in quiet appreciation, she couldn't help but think that this was the most meaningful iftar she had ever had. As they finished their small meal, Emma couldn't shake the surreal feeling of sitting across from Keanu Reeves in the break room of a small diner. She had seen him in countless movies, but here, in real life, he was just a humble man sharing a meal with her. Do you fast the whole day? Keanu asked, genuinely curious. Emma nodded. From sunrise to sunset. No food, no water. Keanu raised his eyebrows in admiration. That takes a lot of discipline. Emma smiled. It does, but it's also a reminder, of patience, of faith, and of those who don't have a choice but to go hungry. He leaned back, thinking about her words. You know, I've always believed that life is about giving back. You never know what someone else is going through. Emma's expression softened. That's exactly why Ramadan is so important to me. It teaches us to be more compassionate. Keanu nodded slowly. Compassion. That's something the world could use more of. A comfortable silence settled between them before he spoke again. Emma, how long have you been working here? She hesitated for a moment. About 4 years now. Ever since my son was born. His eyes flickered with interest. You have a son? Emma's face lit up at the mention of him. Yes, Liam. He's 5 now. He's my world. Keanu smiled warmly. That's amazing. Being a parent is probably the hardest job there is. Emma chuckled. Tell me about it. There was something about the way he listened, like he truly cared. She hadn't had a conversation like this in a long time, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. Keanu could see the warmth in Emma's eyes when she spoke about her son. But he also sensed something else, a quiet exhaustion, a burden she carried alone. Being a single mother can't be easy, he said gently. Emma let out a soft sigh, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the rim of her coffee cup. It's not. But I do my best. I work long shifts here, and when I'm home, it's all about Liam. Keanu nodded. What about his father? She hesitated before answering. He left when Liam was just a baby. Said he wasn't ready to be a dad. A flicker of sadness crossed Keanu's face. I'm sorry, Emma. She shrugged, offering a small smile. It's okay. I've learned to be both mom and dad. Liam deserves the best, and I'll do whatever it takes to give him that. Keanu admired her strength. You're an incredible mother. Emma looked down, as if embarrassed by the compliment. I just wish I could do more. Ramadan reminds us to be grateful, but sometimes, I wonder how much longer I can keep things together. Keanu frowned slightly. What do you mean? She sighed. The bills are piling up. Rent, groceries, daycare, it all adds up. And the diner barely pays enough to get by. Keanu listened carefully. He had met many people in Hollywood, but few had Emma's quiet resilience. She wasn't complaining, just stating the reality of her life. I can't believe I'm saying all this, she chuckled nervously. You must think I'm just another struggling single mom. Keanu shook his head. No. I think you're a fighter. His words caught her off guard, and for the first time in a long while, Emma felt seen. Keanu left the diner that evening deep in thought. Emma's story had struck a chord with him. He had always admired people who faced hardships with quiet strength, and Emma was one of them. As he walked down the dimly lit street, he pulled out his phone and made a call. Hey, it's me, he said when the person on the other end picked up. I need you to help me with something. The next morning, Emma arrived at the diner for her shift. The usual routine began, wiping down tables, brewing coffee, and greeting customers with a smile. Even when she felt exhausted. Around noon, Keanu walked in again, just like the day before. Emma smiled at him, feeling an odd sense of comfort in his presence. "You're back," she said, handing him a menu. "I told you I'd return," he said with a grin. "And today, I brought something for you." Emma raised an eyebrow as he slid a small envelope across the counter. "What's this?" she asked, hesitant to open it. Keanu leaned in slightly, his voice calm yet firm. "Just open it." With slightly trembling hands, Emma unfolded the envelope and gasped. Inside was a receipt for several months' worth of rent, fully paid. "Keanu, I can't accept this," she stammered, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Yes, you can," he said gently. "I know you didn't ask for help, but sometimes, the strongest people need a little support too." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes, but this time, they weren't from stress or exhaustion. They were from gratitude. Emma sat in the back of the diner, staring at the rent receipt in her trembling hands. She had spent months worrying about how she would keep a roof over her son's head, sacrificing her own needs to ensure he had everything he needed. And now, in an instant, Keanu had lifted that burden, but accepting help had never been easy for her. Keanu watched her carefully, sensing the inner turmoil behind her teary eyes. "Emma, I know what you're thinking. But this isn't charity, it's just one person helping another. We all need a little kindness sometimes." Emma wiped her eyes and shook her head. "It's just. I've always done things on my own. Since Jason's father left, I've been the only one he can rely on. I never wanted him to feel like we were struggling, even though we are." Keanu nodded, understanding more than she realized. "You're doing an incredible job, Emma. I can see it. But strength isn't just about carrying the weight alone, it's also about knowing when to let someone lighten the load." Emma sighed, looking at the rent receipt again. For the first time in months, she felt like she could breathe. But another thought nagged at her. "Why are you doing this, Keanu?" she asked softly. Keanu smiled. "Because I've been where you are. I know what it's like to lose, to struggle, to wonder if things will ever get better. And I also know how much a little kindness can change someone's life." Emma's lip quivered. "Thank you," she whispered. Keanu reached for his coffee, taking a slow sip before glancing at her again. "There's one more thing I'd like to do for you." Emma looked up, her brows furrowing. "What do you mean?" Keanu's eyes twinkled with sincerity. "How do you feel about taking a day off?" Emma blinked in surprise. "A day off? That's not really an option for me." Keanu leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. "Why not? When was the last time you did something for yourself?" Emma hesitated, glancing at her hands. "I can't afford to take a break. I have bills, Jason needs me, and work." Keanu interrupted gently. "I spoke to your manager before you came back to the table. You have the day off tomorrow. No questions asked." Emma's eyes widened. "What? How did you?" Keanu chuckled. "Let's just say I have a way with people." He took another sip of his coffee before continuing. "Tomorrow, I want you and Jason to have a proper Ramadan iftar. A peaceful evening, good food, no stress. I've already arranged for something special." Emma stared at him, emotions swirling in her chest. "Keanu, I can't keep accepting so much from you. You've already helped me more than I could ever repay." He shook his head. "That's where you're wrong. Kindness isn't about repayment, it's about passing it on. You'll have your chance to help someone else someday." Emma exhaled shakily, touched beyond words. She had spent so long struggling alone that she had forgotten what it felt like to be cared for. Keanu stood up, leaving a few bills on the table. "I'll see you and Jason tomorrow." He gave her a warm smile before heading for the door, disappearing into the night. Emma sat still for a moment, gripping the rent receipt. For the first time in a long time, hope didn't feel so far away. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, She wouldn't be alone. The next evening, Emma and Jason stood in front of a beautifully decorated restaurant, a place far too elegant for anything she could ever afford. The golden glow of lanterns reflected off the glass windows, and the aroma of freshly baked bread and slow-cooked meats filled the air. Jason tugged on his mother's hand. "Mom, is this where we're having iftar?" His eyes sparkled with excitement. Emma swallowed nervously. "I think so." She still couldn't believe Keanu had arranged this. As they stepped inside, a waiter greeted them with a warm smile. "Miss Emma, right this way." They were led to a private dining area where Keanu was already seated, dressed casually yet effortlessly stylish. He stood up as they approached. "Emma, Jason." "Right on time." Emma hesitated. "Keanu, this is too much. You didn't have to do all this." He smiled kindly. "I wanted to. You deserve a night without worries, especially during Ramadan." Jason clapped his hands. "This place is awesome." Emma finally allowed herself to relax. "All right. Just for tonight." The table was filled with dates, fresh fruit, warm soup, and dishes that looked straight out of a five-star menu. As the call to prayer played softly in the background, they broke their fast together. For the first time in years, Emma didn't have to worry about how much food was left or whether Jason had enough. As the evening went on, they laughed, shared stories, and enjoyed every moment. Keanu spoke to Jason like an old friend, asking him about his favorite books, cartoons, and even teaching him a few funny phrases in different languages. Emma watched them, her heart full. This wasn't just a meal, this was the kindness she had long forgotten, and it was a night she would never forget. As the evening came to an end, Emma felt a deep sense of gratitude. It wasn't just about the fancy dinner or the generosity Keanu had shown, it was the kindness, the warmth, the reminder that good people still existed in the world. Jason leaned back in his chair, rubbing his full stomach. "That was the best iftar ever." Keanu chuckled. "I'm glad you liked it, buddy." Then, turning to Emma, his expression grew serious. "Emma, I know you've been struggling. And I want to help in a way that lasts beyond just tonight." Emma's smile faltered. "Keanu, you've already done more than enough." He shook his head. "This isn't charity, Emma. It's a fresh start." From his pocket, he pulled out a small envelope and slid it across the table. Emma hesitated before picking it up. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a letter, an official job offer. "I reached out to a friend who owns a publishing house," Keanu explained. "They were impressed with your resume. They want you on their editorial team." Emma's eyes widened. "Keanu. This is too much." He smiled. "You're talented, Emma. You just needed someone to open a door for you. Now it's up to you to walk through it." Tears welled up in her eyes. She had spent years believing life would never change, that struggle was her only reality. But here she was, given a new opportunity by a man who owed her nothing, yet believed in her. Jason wrapped his arms around Keanu. "Thank you, Mr. Keanu. You're the best." Keanu grinned. "Anytime, kiddo." As they stepped out into the cool night air, Emma looked up at the stars. For the first time in a long time, she felt hope, and this Ramadan would be one she'd never forget. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. What would you do if you were in Emma's shoes? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, kindness can change lives. Even the smallest act of generosity can make a world of difference. Stay kind, stay hopeful, and keep spreading positivity. Follow us for more incredible stories that will leave you speechless.